Hello there. I'm glad you're here. Welcome to Beyond the Frame.
Good to be here, man. Thanks for
Isn't
having
it?
me.
You're welcome. Just say, hey, what are you doing today, Ryan? Come on over.
Yeah,
Let's do a freaking
why
podcast.
not?
So, as it just so happens, I am your host, Joe Parente, and I've learned some of my most valuable life lessons from my favorite TV shows and movies. Sure, Ryan, these works entertain us, offer us an escape, and even tap into our emotions. However, there is one E that is quite often overlooked. You got
I think
it.
that's
know you got it.
educational. I see it over there. If viewed from a different perspective, these stories and their characters can help us to learn and develop as human beings. Joe, I'm your co-host, Ryan Vanderhei, if you hadn't figured that out yet. And it's our mission with this podcast to share these unique perspectives with you so that you can grow from the show.
Indeed.
Let's do it.
I just felt like that needed a bit of a pause.
Sure.
It was just so well delivered.
Love it.
I loved it. The topic of today's discussion, the 1999 film Fight Club, which in 2009, the New York Times called, quote, the defining cult movie of our time, unquote. And I'm on board with that.
Agree.
And you are bowing as well.
I agree.
So we're both on board with that.
Uh-huh.
It stars Edward Norton, Brad Pitt, and Helena Bonham Carter. It was directed by David Fincher, who I'm a big fan of.
Me too.
As are you? The screenplay was written by Jim Ulls, and it was based on the novel of the same name by Chuck Palahniuk. And as we say every time, there will be countless spoilers ahead, so consider this our perfunctory PSA. Public service announcement.
Thanks for that.
You looked
I was curious.
slightly puzzled.
Yeah.
So if you haven't seen it and still listen, hopefully what we say will make you want to see it that much more. After all, it's the defining cult movie of our time, damn it. So please be sure to leave a like, rating, or review wherever it is that you listen or watch, as it really helps us grow the show. And once again, also your comments are welcome and encouraged. So Ryan, shall we begin?
We shall.
The answers that you're looking for are lying just beyond the frame.
So I first saw this movie when it came out, and I loved it. That was, and now almost 26 years later, I still love it, and I think I appreciate it even more.
Me too.
Wow, I love that for both of us. This movie makes no apologies for anything. It's not afraid to go there, and it goes there.
Oh, does it?
So Tyler Durden had to be played by Brad Pitt.
Had to. No one else.
There were others who were up for it, but one actor who didn't get it even commented later that it had to be Brad Pitt.
Who was the actor that
I
didn't
can't
get it?
remember. Damn it.
Huh.
I wish I hadn't said that because I couldn't think of the actor's name, but I found it when I was Googling information about the movie,
It was like,
and I just
interesting.
saw this interview, and the guy didn't get it, but he just said hats off to Brad Pitt.
I just read too when I was doing the Black Bag research that Fassbender was up for James Bond before Daniel Craig got picked, and in the audition, he recommended Daniel Craig to the producers.
That's
Imagine
fascinating.
that. We almost had, which kind of would have been, like in an alternate universe, a Michael Fassbender Bond movies would be pretty damn cool.
So is there a lesson we can take away from that, though? In an audition, aren't you kind of doing that for your own benefit?
Says a lot about
So
Michael Fassbender.
It does, and also, I mean, it makes you wonder if he just thought, I am not the right guy for this.
That absolutely could have been it. Like he
And-
did the audition. He's like, you know what?
Right.
That didn't feel right.
And it's not as though that crushed his career and he'd never work again. He's freaking Michael Fassbender.
Super. Yeah, absolutely.
So, God, that guy's talented. But we're not talking about him today. One more thing I just want to say about Russell Crowe. Thank you.
Russell Crowe was going to be.
Russell Crowe.
Oh,
was going to be in this.
God.
And he
No
just
disrespect to
no.
Russell Crowe. Love Russell Crowe. But him as Tyler Durden, I can't even fathom that.
I think because he's Russell Crowe, he would have made it sing.
Sure.
I give him that credit, but I also love the fact that he could recognize, oh, right, because he thought he had it, and anyway, he didn't get the part. Brad Pitt did.
We got the
and
illustrious Brad instead.
We did.
And he gave us a performance for the
gave us
ages.
so much. Okay, I'm gonna try to get this back on track.
Sure.
I could go
Get
down
us
that
back on
rabbit
the-
hole
on the tracks
so
here, conductor.
easily. So Brad Pitt brought a freedom and a natural rebelliousness that's vital to this movie. And to me, he looks like he was just having a really good time, you know?
Who wouldn't?
Edward Norton as the narrator, or even Jack, makes existentialism relatable.
Sure does.
You know, the scenes with the two of them had me smiling
Yeah.
a lot.
Me too, yeah.
And
They play great off each other.
They really do. And Helena Bonham Carter brings a believability and a vulnerability to her gothness.
Oh, yeah. She's great in
that
this.
I thought was fantastic. Just another comment I want to make is that I think this movie ages extremely well.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, we're watching it and even appreciating it more 26 years later.
It did not look dated.
10 years from now, I'm still going to feel the same way.
Yeah, I agree. I think as I get older, I just appreciate the themes of this.
Some movies
much
are
more.
timeless. They do have that effect, and that's hard to achieve sometimes.
Very, very much so. And like it was well written, well paced. It makes a complex issue. I shouldn't just say a complex issue, because to me there are several here. But it makes it makes the complex issue of a split personality very clear. And I can imagine if you're trying to take on this kind of subject where I'm going to have a split personality character, you could drive yourself nuts with how to portray this.
Absolutely.
And I just thought Fincher did a masterful job
Agreed.
with this.
Couldn't agree more.
You know, it still made me laugh and wince and wonder.
Yeah. It has that effect.
And I love that you and I are on the same page on that, because there are some movies that I feel so passionately about that if you didn't like this, I'd be like,
Oh, it'd be a drag. Yeah. I hear you.
it would
Yeah.
suck. So yeah. So to me, it still packs a punch, and that is absolutely a pun intended.
Thank you for that.
It also has so many themes which we could discuss. So many that it wasn't easy sticking to one, but I'm gonna give it my
I'm
best.
excited to hear what you stuck with.
So right out of the gate, well, actually about 9 minutes from the gate, but I'm gonna ask you this question, Ryan. Do you ever feel caught or even overwhelmed at times in the, quote, struggle for the legal tender? You probably don't know that song. That's a reference to a Jackson Browne song.
I don't know that
called
one.
The Pretender.
The Pretender.
It is a brilliant song.
Okay, I only
I'm
know
gonna-
the Foo Fighters Pretender.
which is also brilliant.
Which is also a
Love
great
that
song.
version.
Yes.
I'm going to send you this one because
Okay.
you need to hear it, and you
Yeah.
need to read the lyrics, and it will make you go, wow.
Love it.
It's profound. So do you ever feel overwhelmed by that at times? Or more importantly, do you have moments when you wonder what it's all for? The real question really is, what makes you feel alive? I like to start with small questions first.
Let's just get the small stuff out of the way, huh? What makes you feel alive?
Well, and
Last time we were talking about seeing somebody's like they're there, but their eyes or whatever. Like, you remember that? What was that conversation we had about dead people?
oh, right.
Like, you're looking
is
at them
there
in the
someone
eyes
in
because
there?
No one's home.
Yeah, no one's.
Casual conversations that we have.
Well,
That's just how we do it, Joe.
It is how we do it. Besides,
I mean, we had a coffee yesterday, and my God, man, it was 3 hours of us just talking about life, death, what it
And
all
movies.
means.
Yeah.
What's the fabric
Uh-huh.
of reality?
so that's why I thought this was a fair question, since we'd already discussed this.
Sure.
So
Absolutely.
look, because I think this is a question that I can only speak for myself. Like, how often do I ask myself that question? I think for some people, it's really important to be in touch with that, to keep that on their screen, if you will.
I'm one of those people.
Yeah, I am as well.
Yeah.
Because I don't want years to float by where I was kind of in auto mode.
What is it for you? What does it for you? We spent a lot of time talking about me yesterday, but
Actually, because I'm the host of this show and I asked you the question,
I can't. I'm not allowed. It's like against the rules. I
Nope,
can't. I
nope.
can't flip it back onto
nice
you.
deflection try.
Yeah.
But no, I'm sorry. I'm going to hold you to that one first.
I mean, listen, man. There's a lot of things that make me feel alive, but I think there's one I can't live without. Well, there's a couple things I can't live without, but this is really the thing that keeps me going. It makes my, the beat of my drum that makes me tick, and that's art.
Okay.
I have to be able to express myself. As long as I'm allowed to do that, I don't think I could survive without it. I don't think I could let go of that. You know, like sometimes as you're talking about the legal tender and the pursuit of that, your parents, they want you to have a stable job, 9 to 5 with benefit. Like they want to make sure you're secure. They want to know that, okay, he's taken care of.
Yep.
But I like to work in environments where I could be creative and where I can create art. And a lot of times those jobs aren't stable. My girlfriend and I have conversations like this all the time. We embarked on this journey. We chose this. Like we complain to each other, but at the end of the day, it's our decision. We chose to come out here. We chose to pursue this kind of career in this business, in this industry that offers no promises, that offers very little seats at the table. And it's tough. And we are scraping by a lot of the time, but it doesn't affect me like it might affect the average person. And I guess that's because as long as I'm being creative, as long as I'm allowed to create and be artistic and express myself, all that other stuff doesn't really matter. Like that's what keeps me going. That's what gets me out of bed in the morning. That's what keeps me, you know, living, if you will. That's my why, if you want to say. Like why get up? You don't have to. You don't have to get out of bed.
True.
Nobody's got a gun to your head.
Right. Hopefully not.
Hopefully not.
Well, I have mad respect for that because what you're doing is really doing what makes you what you're passionate about.
What's fulfilling.
And there's an opportunity. Sorry, I think sometimes in business terms, but there is an opportunity cost to anything. You're going to do this, and because you're doing this, you can't do that. And so there's an opportunity cost in devoting yourself to creating art. And that can be at the price of steady work, steady income.
Stability.
Stability, predictability.
Yeah, totally.
Because living this life that we're living right now, we don't have a ton of that. And so if you don't have a ton of that and you're not pursuing your art,
I'd be in a hole.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I'd be in a deep hole.
For sure.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. That's and to me you are a true artist. And I have mad respect for that because I think there are a lot of artists out there who've probably done jobs that are very stable and what have you for the sake of raising children, for the sake of, for others.
Yeah.
Even though they wish they'd been a writer, even though they wish they'd taken an acting class, even though, on and on.
Life gets in the way.
Exactly. And it takes a real conscious effort to do the life that doesn't get in the way and do it to a degree that you can keep yourself housed and fed and what have you, and still create your art.
Yeah, it's tricky.
And so my answer is going to be much along the same way. Part of what also just
so you are going to tell me, huh?
I guess a little bit is, there are things, interactions with good friends helps me feel alive.
Yep.
I also just like breaking the rules sometimes. That's important to me.
I love that.
Staying up way too late, just doing things that you're maybe not supposed to do, whatever.
Sure.
That's actually really important to me. If I don't do something that's breaking some rules, I start to get itchy. So
I love that about you, man.
That's important to me. I don't want to go to prison.
You've got to work out your rebellious arm.
Yeah, I do. And even at my age, 38, I still
Sorry,
have
I didn't mean
that.
to
I know.
laugh.
Why was that funny?
That was a fact. I don't know why I laughed at a fact.
You were clearly laughing at something else.
Right.
But it's still there for me. But there are also things like music is so important in my life.
Oh my God.
I can't live without it on a
Art.
daily basis. It's art. You're
need
right.
it.
Art.
I need it.
And now, quite frankly, for me personally, pursuing acting and just like my acting class and doing this with you every week.
Yeah. It gets you out of bed, man. Gets the heart beating.
It does. And it's a great excuse, literally a tax write-off to go to movies.
That's right.
And then to be able to sit down with you and talk about them is very life affirming. if you will.
Yeah.
So
I feel the same way, man. We share the same sentiment in
yeah,
that regard.
for sure.
Thanks for sharing that. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate what you had to say to me and all of us. So before we dive into some particular scenes that we're going to discuss, why don't I give a really brief, somewhat brief synopsis of the movie?
Let's do it. Yeah. In case somebody hasn't seen it in a while, this movie's been out for 26 years. So.
Exactly. And that is pretty much the only reason why I give a synopsis, just so that the scenes we're going to discuss, would make a little bit more
fresh.
sense.
Yeah.
So to sum up the movie as the narrator might, I am Jack's insomnia. I am Jack's wasted life, and I am Jack's inflamed sense of rejection. I'm sorry, but that makes me laugh. Allow me to expand on that. So the narrator, our main character, again played by Edward Norton, suffers from insomnia. He finds relief for his insomnia in a way that most all of us do. Support groups.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Doesn't it? It
That's
does.
my first option.
The last thing I'd ever think of, but it was a doctor who suggested that.
Sure.
So you want to see people who are really in pain?
Go to the support group.
Yeah,
You'll
he
see.
challenged him, and Edward Norton, the narrator, was up to the challenge. So he finds that he can actually really let go in these groups, and as a result, he can once again sleep. But at some point, another poser in the form of Marla Singer, played by Helena Bonham Carter, shows up in all the groups, and it blocks him from truly letting go. He can't let go when he knows there's another poser in the room.
Yeah.
Which I think the hypocrisy of that is hilarious.
So funny.
So this makes him very upset and sleepless. So he confronts her, and they divvy up the groups that they'll each attend with the intent of never having to see each other again, although they do exchange contact info in case of schedule changes or something.
Sure.
So I thought that was pretty funny when they did that. So the narrator is a risk assessor for a major automobile manufacturer, and he flies a lot. During one of his flights, he meets Tyler Durden, a soap salesman. They exchange cards. One night, the narrator returns home to find that his apartment, filled with his prized IKEA possessions, has exploded, as
IKEA
one's
possessions.
apartment might. So
Just another day in the neighborhood.
Exactly. Damn, I hate when my apartment blows up. So he reaches out to Tyler, and they meet for beers. And eventually, Tyler tells the narrator, ask the question you want to ask me. Like, what? Ask me the question you want to ask me. Eventually, can I stay with you for a bit? It's like, Jesus, was that so hard?
Right.
So he finally asks him for a place to stay. But before they leave, Tyler asks the narrator to hit him in the parking lot. Which was hilarious. So I just want to throw out a fun fact of the movie right now. Director David Fincher told Edward Norton to really hit Brad Pitt. And I don't know if you noticed that in the movie, because I thought that is one of the most realistic punches I've ever seen. Like the sound of it, everything.
Oh, yeah. And Brad's reaction to it?
And Brad's reaction. So he really did. He punched him in the ear.
Oh, man.
And I love that. Brad Pitt's response was genuine, because he had no idea he was going to get hit, and he stayed in character, which I thought was fantastic. And he's like, ow, that really hurt. But he's saying it as Tyler Durden, not as Brad Pitt. I freaking love that.
That's a good actor right there, man.
So they exchange blows. It's painful. It's exhilarating. And they might be onto something.
Yeah, I wonder what that would be.
So the narrator moves into Durden's house, into this rather rundown, dilapidated house, and they become friends. So the two of them live there. And at some point, Tyler saves Marla's life when she reaches out after taking a full container of Xanax. She gives him a ring.
Yikes.
And they become something after that. So Tyler and the narrator start a fight club, and what starts out as a small group gathering in the basement of a bar becomes a nationwide phenomenon.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So the pain of the fight that these men experience, the pain they experience in their fights, is intended to wake the person up out of their malaise, to make them face their fear of pain and find out that, yeah, it hurts, but not only am I still alive, but I am alive.
Yeah. Reinvigorating.
Exactly. So it's frightening and exhilarating and unconventional, and it pushes people quite literally out of their comfort zones.
True.
It also strikes a chord with a lot of men.
I love that you put that in quotes. Strikes.
But you didn't hear it from me, because the first rule of Fight Club is that you do not talk about Fight Club.
Yeah, what are we talking about again?
I don't know. No idea. The narrator is able to blackmail his employer into paying his full salary in exchange for not going public with things that he knows about this major automobile manufacturer and the safety or lack thereof of their cars. So this frees him up to grow the Fight Club. And Tyler morphs the Fight Club into Project Mayhem, which is very committed to social disorder.
Yeah.
It's also contradictorily, wow, my diction was really off on that one. But it becomes more dehumanizing for the members who are ordered around like they're in a military boot camp on steroids.
Yeah, it gets crazy.
It does.
They get way in over their heads.
Way in, and it's also, is being a cog in a wheel going to make you feel more alive? I mean, there are aspects of that just, I can understand why it was done.
Yeah.
But it was fascinating to watch that happen. As these men feel more and more and more alive, they're actually willing to relinquish their own personal identities and become part of a movement rather than becoming a really alive individual.
Yeah, it takes quite the different turn there.
It really did. And that's where we also have the dynamic between the narrator and Tyler Durden, but I'll get to that.
Correct.
So Fincher purposely left some blanks for us to figure out or not,
Or
like
not.
that. The narrator eventually sees that Tyler, what he's doing with this Project Mayhem, and tries to stop it. It's during this journey to try to undo what Tyler has done that he slowly starts to see that he is indeed Tyler Durden. So mayhem ensues from that. Yeah, exactly. So if you weren't paying attention during the first screening, you might miss all the clues.
Yeah.
But there were a ton. Once you've seen the movie, it's actually fun to watch it again and watch all the clues.
As you see it, years later and you know the outcome, you're right. In the earlier scenes, you can spot
Yes, you can.
the clues.
But first time through,
yeah, it's
wasn't
one of those
sure what was
movies you
going
can't
on.
wrap your head around.
yeah. And it wasn't until you see in the closed circuit TV
Right.
that the narrator is indeed fighting himself.
Yeah.
That rattled me the first time.
That's when it all comes to a head.
But Tyler's split personality is absolutely not the point of Fight Club. What is the point? So glad you asked that.
What is the point, Joe?
Why are we here?
Yeah.
But before we jump into that, let's have a bad guy break.
Let's do it.
Okay.
I'm excited to see what you picked here.
So here's what I picked. I'll tell you. So
Bad guy related to this.
Yeah.
Huh?
So if y'all want to just play along with this and you can try to guess this, I'll give a few clues here. So the year is 2010.
Okay, kind of. Oh God, that's not recent.
It's
though.
a
15
film.
years ago.
And the genre is psychological drama. This one might give it away. It stars Natalie Portman.
2010.
Yes.
Black Swan.
Correct.
Oh man.
Well done. Well done.
What's her character name in that?
Oh, damn.
Do we know her character name in Black Swan? Can we figure that out, please?
I do not off the top of my head, but
That's Aronofsky, yeah?
it is Aronofsky. And the reason I chose this was because there was an imaginary bad guy
Yeah.
in that one too.
Yeah, you're right.
Or
that's
bad
a great.
gal. There
That's
was
a
an
great.
imaginary bad gal in
Look at that. We
one.
both chose bad gals today.
Nina Sayers.
Sayers. Yeah,
Nina Sayers was her name in
that's
that.
a great bad gal.
When indeed both the narrator and
Nina Sayers.
were fighting their own minds.
Yeah, totally.
So that was, I just thought that those fit together.
Love it. Great choice.
Thanks, man. Hey, let's discuss the scene.
Let's get into it.
It was hard to pick like what one or
What
two
scenes
or
do
three
you
scenes
choose?
you
Yeah,
like.
I mean, it's hard to narrow it
Exactly.
down.
But I did narrow it down just for the sake of this conversation. So this scene, in the scene, Tyler is addressing the men of Fight Club. Quote, "The men I see in Fight Club are the strongest and smartest men who have ever lived. I see all this potential and I see it squandered. God damn it, an entire generation pumping gas, waiting tables, slaves with white collars. Advertising has us chasing cars and clothes, working jobs we hate so we can buy shit we don't need. We're the middle children of history, man. No purpose or place. We have no great war, no great depression. Our great war is the spiritual war. Our great depression is our lives."
Ouch.
We've all been raised on television to believe that we'd all be millionaires and movie gods and rock stars. But we won't, and we're slowly learning that fact, and we're very, very pissed off.
It's a good speech for
Oh
these
my
guys,
God.
man.
I was just going to quote a little bit. And I thought, how do I stop?
No, you got to keep
That's
going the whole
all
way.
so fantastically written.
If I was in that group and I heard that, I'd probably be pretty fired up.
Yeah, for sure.
It's convincing.
By the way, another fun fact. So I don't know if you noticed, but when he was talking to the men of Fight Club and he referred to rock stars, he looks right at Jared Leto.
Was he
when he said
a
that.
rock star at the time?
He was already a musician.
Oh wow!
So
I forgot he was. Sometimes I forget he's in this movie.
yeah, I think what was he? I think he was called like Beautiful Man or something.
Yeah, he has such an interesting role.
Yeah, Angel
that
Face.
Every time
Angel
I watch
Face.
it, for some reason, every time when he comes up on screen, I'm like, shit, that's Jared Leto.
Yeah. So yeah, I just and he was good.
Love that. Yeah, it's great.
So American culture, tells us that we can be anything if we want to be. We see Olympic athletes, actors, and even CEOs saying all we have to do is aim high and believe. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I think Tyler is hitting on something here. So, Ryan, my question is this: how did that scene hit you?
Every time I watch it, it's becomes more and more poignant. Like you said, this movie doesn't age. This movie has standed the test of time, and it's because it's very relatable to society in general.
Completely.
We haven't changed.
We haven't.
This
at
was
all.
this was relatable 26 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's relatable now.
It was.
It's still that way. Like you said, Olympics, actors, rock stars, CEOs, whatever.
Yeah.
It's all everybody says is it could be you. It's the American dream. It could be, and the reality is that's less than 1%.
I totally agree. And part of why I said that was when I hear athletes or people say, all you have to do is believe and you can do anything, I think I cannot high jump 10 feet. Like, shut the bleep up. That actually agitates me when I hear it. Like,
Sure.
It's supposed to inspire people. And
Which I get.
I get it.
What are you going to
too.
say when you're up there? I get
I
it.
get it too, but it's not true.
That is, yeah, you're right.
That is just not the reality. It's kind of like hard work will get you ahead.
So this is what we just talked about.
I work hard mowing lawns. I'm not getting ahead.
This is what we talked about, though. We just talked about this in the Black Bag episode we did about lying for the greater good, lying to be kind. Is it better to go up there and say, well, you're not going to work hard as me, so you're not going to get to where I'm at?
Quite
Or is it
frankly, I
better
wouldn't
to-
even address it.
You wouldn't address it
Well,
at all?
if it's like, is this about like giving advice? Like, for the young people out there.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of times what I see. I mean, these people, there's plenty of people, listen, we're talking about this the way we are. There's plenty of people I look up to. There's plenty of
Sure.
people that I idolize.
Me too, for sure. I'm not saying that isn't the case.
Correct. But I think when you're in that position, when you have that much reach, when you have that much influence, I hate that word, but when you have that much influence, you want to be saying the right things. You want to be saying positive things. You want to give people hope.
Isn't that lying to them, Ryan?
In a way, yes, but you don't. I think for them, you don't know who that's going to reach.
No, that's true. And
Out of the million people watching, one of them could become the next.
okay, so then the 999,000
Yeah,
are gonna join Fight Club because they're pissed off.
I'm with you,
because
man.
they were lied to and they believed it.
I'm with you. There's only so many seats at the table.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah,
not
yeah,
enough
yeah.
seats for all of us.
So, I also asked this: how do we balance our dreams, our passions, and the reality of our predicaments?
I've been wrestling with that for 15
I was
years.
hoping you were going to have the answer. Damn it. So, I mean, really, how do we make it okay to do the things we must in order to keep ourselves housed and healthy and pursue the things that we really want to?
It's a great question. A lot of the people I will say this, my girlfriend and I talk about this a lot. A lot of people in the generation, and you might be able to speak to this as well. A lot of older generations, your expectation was to get a stable job,
Yes.
start a family,
Yeah.
have the wife and kids and a
Yeah.
white picket fence. Like that was just the expectation. That's just what you did. That was just how it was laid out for you. And so I talk to people who are of my parents' generation all the time who they fucking hate their lives. They hate their jobs. They hate it. But it's like, I just had to do it.
Because that's what you do.
You know, and some of them will see us as like these rebellious kids who are trying to get jobs in like art and movies. And they're like, that's stupid. You should just get a 9 to 5. And It's like, why? So I can hate my life like you do? Like, is that why I should do it?
And you know what the answer is to that? Yes.
Right.
Hey, and unfortunately, there are a lot of people who think that way of like, well, I had to bury my dreams, so you should too. It's kind of the opposite of what we were just saying of offering something that's hopeful and encouraging.
Yeah.
I
It's
think
the harsh reality of it.
it is the harsh reality. I think that people might not even consciously think that I want you to join my misery circle, but there are people who do think that way.
I try to
you
put
know?
myself somewhere right in between. I try to think logically first.
Sure.
Logic always first. But then I try to remain true to my sense of self and what I want to do with this life. And so I have to try to balance myself somewhere right in the middle.
Well, which is I think very sane. I think it's also we have to be smart about the messages we get from to the point of this movie, advertising and from society at large,
Yeah.
because you're going to be your best interest is not necessarily at heart for whoever is putting out that message.
Correct.
A
lot of times they're trying to sell you a product.
Exactly. And if you're just buying, so to speak, everything they're selling, then you could find yourself incredibly disillusioned, incredibly angry, incredibly disconnected from
Correct.
yourself, from your own life, and could get to a point at a particular age where you're in so deep you don't even know how to get yourself out.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's a great way to put it.
And I think there are probably a lot of people out there that if they realize that it's so destabilizing to even think that, they'll bury that too.
100%. They'll be dishonest to themselves.
I watched. Wow, I'm just remembering this. I lived abroad for a year. I lived in London, and someone came and visited me, and I saw them sitting on my bed facing the window, and I came up and I go, "Are you okay?" And this person said, "I'm looking back at my life, and I realize I hate it."
Ooh.
And this person started to really freak out. And I put my hand on their shoulder and they're like, "Don't touch me. Don't touch me." And then I watched this person go, "I'm okay."
Whoa, man. Suck it all back
And
in.
I watched them bury that. And I thought, for this person, that's how they're coping with this.
I think that's a lot of people, man. That's
And
not one in a million.
And that's why I say that, because I don't, no judgment on this person whatsoever. I think that's the reality for a lot of people.
Yeah, it's tough.
I think that's also, because I think I love to travel, and it gives me a real sense of liberty and adventure.
Yeah.
And you learn a lot about yourself. And there are times when you are far away that you look back at your life and go, "Oh, wow.
How did
It's
I end
hard."
up here?
Exactly. And you don't have to go to Europe. You don't have to go that far. You can, go to Santa Barbara. You can feel that way. Look,
Just a change of scenery.
Just a change of scenery
will allow you to
will
see
give you that
things.
space where you can look at it and see that
Perspective, yeah.
So I found that
Wow.
speech, if you will, that Brad Pitt, Tyler Durden gave the guys. I watched that over and over, and I also loved Brad Pitt's delivery of it.
So good.
It was fantastic.
There's a reason why he's still working.
Exactly. Yes, they're a very good reason why he's still working.
Yeah.
So let's try another scene, shall
Let's do
we?
it.
Since
Let's
we're on a
jump
roll.
in.
So in this scene, Raymond K. Hessel is a guy who's in his early 20s. He works at a convenience store. Tyler and the narrator actually, only Tyler went in the store. He told the narrator to go around back.
Mm-hmm.
Tyler drags Raymond out of the store and onto his knees in the parking lot behind the
I
store.
love this scene.
Tyler points a gun at the back of Raymond's head and says, "Raymond, you are going to die." Raymond's in tears,
As most people would be.
as most people would be, because he knew the guy meant it.
There was some conviction in that.
Right. The narrator, Edward Norton's character, is watching on in confusion and asks Tyler to stop. Tyler finds an expired student ID in Raymond's wallet, and he asks Raymond what he studied. Eventually, Raymond tells Tyler he wanted to be a veterinarian. Tyler says, "That means you need more schooling," and Raymond says, "Too much school." Tyler asks him, "Would you rather be dead?" Raymond is quietly begging for his life, Tyler tells him he's keeping his license and that he's going to check in on him. And if he's not on his way to being a vet in 6 weeks, he's going to find him and kill him. And then he tells him to run along. So the narrator, Edward Norton, asks, what's the point? And he said, that made me sick watching that. And Tyler said that tomorrow is going to be the sweetest day of Raymond's life, and his breakfast will taste better than ever before, because this brush with death will make him feel alive. And all of a sudden, he'll appreciate what he has. He might even go back to school.
It's a conflicting scene, man, because it makes me feel like, man, I like this Tyler guy. Something about him. He's got some edge, but he's trying to do the right thing. It's kind of like a save the cat moment almost.
Save the cat moment?
Yeah. Like in films, you have a save the cat moment to try to get the audience to root for the protagonist.
Got it.
Got it. It literally comes from them, quote unquote, saving a cat. But this is kind of more or less Tyler Durden save the cat moment because it gets you to root for him. You're like, I kind of like this guy.
Well, exactly. As a matter of fact,
he's trying to help people.
He was. And to me, this scene really makes perfect sense. It does. Raymond was told that he was going to die, and he believed it. And he may have even soiled himself, But he may have also thought about the things and the people that mattered most because he thought, wow, I'm about to meet my maker.
This might be it.
And he may have realized that he actually loves being alive. And how do we know this? Do we ask ourselves if we love our lives?
Yeah. I try to keep myself always cognizant of that and always consciously aware without being presented with death. I don't want to let it become that brings me back to living in the here and now.
Well,
we can get too caught up in the cycle of life. We can get too caught up in the grind and the daily this and the ego and I got to go out and I got to go to work and I got to pay the bills and taxes are going to come and I got to, I got responsibilities. We get so caught up in that sometimes you're not really like here.
True.
You're not really enjoying it.
I totally agree with that.
I mean, the whole, it's such a miracle that any of us are here in the first place. It's astonishing. So to just waste away waking up and going to work and coming home and going to sleep and then waking up, and it's like, I don't want to misuse this time I've been given and this gift that I've been given. But that's hard to remind yourself of.
It's hard to remind yourself, but the fact that you even think about that at all, I think differentiates you from a lot of people. Because, and I think that way as well, but there are stretches of time also where I feel kind of dead and feel completely asleep.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to bring this up, but I will.
Love it.
My mom had lung cancer she was given a death sentence. She was given very little time to live. They weren't even necessarily going to treat her. She did one round of chemo and radiation. And the way she described it later was, well, she and my dad, cry themselves to sleep. My mom didn't really cry for herself though. So I'm not sure if she said that just to be kind, but I could believe for my dad, it was devastating. They'd been together for a long time. And she said, the way she put it was one night she realized, you know what, I'm going to live. So no sense in crying. And there was just kind of like a matter of fact, like, huh. And my mom had fully metastasized terminal cancer. And her cancer went away completely.
Wow.
And she came out, it's a much longer story. I'm just going to give the abridged version here. She came out of that an entirely different person. And everyone saw it.
Yeah.
And my mom before this, she was late all the time. She was kind of nervous. We would joke that the Christmas cards would come out around Labor Day because Mom wasn't so good at getting those out on time.
Yeah.
And her whole demeanor changed. And I think it's because she was so on the cusp of life and death that something happened with her that it gave her an appreciation of being alive that we don't naturally have. Most people don't naturally have. My mom already loved her life, but after that, she really loved her life. And she did things that she hadn't done before, where she'd wake up at 3 a.m. and she'd go out just to look at the stars.
Yeah, it's something that comes into perspective when you have
and
something
it's
like that happen.
How many of us take just some time to look at the night sky?
Yeah.
You know?
I appreciate you for sharing that. That's such a touching story there. And I think that sometimes, and we touched on this a little bit yesterday, but Alan Watts has a great, I don't know what you want to call it, reference or whatever. It's called a natural satori that happens. He says a lot of times when people are faced with death, it's really peaceful. You know, like when the bomb's whistling, coming down above, it's not panic. You're not afraid. There's kind of this peacefulness that washes over you. And I think if you take that with you into, like when people have a near-death experience or if people are terminally ill and they come out of it, you carry that with you. That doesn't stop. It's not like, oh my God, I lived.
Right.
Oh, back to being, you know.
Right.
Back to, I got to go to work tomorrow or whatever. It's like you now see things differently.
Well, exactly. So that was the case for my mother. She saw things entirely different. And it was evident all the 19 years that she lived after that.
Wow, that's amazing.
And we all saw it, and it was remarkable.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
To see. So mom, didn't have a gun to her head at the back of the Circle K market, but Raymond did in the movie.
Sure.
But similar effect. So I could actually really appreciate what Tyler Durden was doing.
Yeah, definitely. And he was the cancer in
exactly.
Yeah.
So a final thought before I give the recommendations. Top 5. Love your life. That's what I've got to say. And do what you love to do, and what is that? Figure out what that is, and what makes you feel alive.
Yeah.
Because Raymond got to figure that out, I think.
Good for him.
Yeah. So that's I don't want that to sound preachy, but that's
I love that. I think
that's what I got out of Fight Club.
Absolutely, and that's so funny to think like that's a movie this dark, this gritty, this
violent.
That's the message that you take away from it. I mean, it's a beautiful thing, man.
Yeah, I'm
beautiful
weird.
thing.
I know it. Thank you, appreciate that. So let me give a top 5 recommendation.
Yes.
So if you want to see a movie about a burned out guy who doesn't like what he sees in the world, I recommend Taxi Driver, starring Robert De Niro and Jodie Foster. You can watch that on Max.
That's a good synopsis.
For another guy who can't sleep and struggles with sanity, I recommend The Machinist, starring Christian Bale. His performance is worth it. Yeah, no kidding. And you can watch that on Disney+. For a guy who isn't sure why he survived an accident and what the hell's going on, I recommend Donnie Darko, starring Jake Gyllenhaal. You can watch that on Freevee. Freaking love that movie.
So good.
For a movie about going through a tough experience and learning to really love your life, I recommend Castaway, starring Tom Hanks and Wilson.
And Wilson.
You can watch that on Hulu. And for a guy coming to terms with himself, I recommend The Dark Knight Rises, starring Christian Bale.
That's a good
Anne
one.
Hathaway and Tom Hardy. You can watch that on Max.
Good pull.
So I forgot to, put the prologue on here. The epilogue. I'm just gonna. Prologue would have been a lot earlier. But
as always,
as always, hey, just thank you for joining us. Really appreciate that you're here, listening to us, watching us. Again, we encourage you to watch these movies if you haven't, and we encourage you to, do the things you love doing.
Yeah.
Ryan and I are doing that right here, sitting here. We really appreciate you being here, and we will see you next time.
Absolutely.
So take care.
Peace.